What's good, Scrubs? I hope you're cold because today we're about to ignite the Fire Starter deck, Blazing Destruction, which is actually called Blaze of Destruction because, this is a Konami game, so you could add that to the typo list. And getting right into it, this deck notably starts with 3 UFO Turtles, 2 Ultimate Baseball Kids, 2 Solar Flare Dragons, and some solid 1-ofs in Charcoal and Pachi, Raging Flame Sprite, and the Stalos the Firestorm Monarch. This fire monster lineup is backed up with 2 copies of Molten Destruction and 2 copies of Level Limit Area B, accompanied with 2 copies of Dust Tornado and various other staples. We get a few upgrades from the GX starter deck in our trunk, but mostly in the way of spells and traps, like Fissure and Tribute to the Doomed are great spell removal options, and Magic Cylinder gives us a key burn spell. Then Sakuretsu Armor and Compulsory Evacuation Device provide us some extra defense against stronger monsters. It's important to know that when building a fire deck for this era, the biggest payoff cards for fire strategies are Raging Flame Sprite and Ultimate Baseball Kid. Both of these cards have the potential to take over the game completely if they go unanswered, but also require a bit of setup before their attack points become overwhelming. To protect our monsters during this setup time, I recommend buying Pharaoh's Servant until you find 2 copies of Gravity Bind. Pairing these with our copies of Level Limit Area B give us the nice 4-card stall package, and since Raging Flame Sprite and Ultimate Baseball Kid are both level 3, they'll be unaffected by either one, allowing them to attack freely. Once you get some decent packs and are editing your deck, you're going to want to cut out all the weird stuff like the Infernal Flame Emperor, the Necklace of Command, the Dark Door, Meteor Destruction, and Backfire in order to replace them with more traditional options. So this is what I came up with on day 1, and it definitely clapped up the whole first tier with no problems. Most of the time it was relying on Ultimate Baseball Kid in order to get a big monster on the field and eventually start breaking through for direct attacks. Whenever I was out of a level limit or gravity bind, I was able to set up Solar Flare Dragon Lock a few times, but remember that it only prevents Solar Flare Dragon from being attacked, so you can't summon a Raging Flame Sprite alongside it and expect it to live. But you get a steady 1000 damage, so Solar Flare Dragon does a good bit of pinging while he sits on the field under Gravity Binds under level limit, and has the alternative to set up a lock if you have one in hand and you can search the other one up with UFO Turtle. Definitely a great option for this deck. Also, Inferno came in pretty clutch as well. Whenever you get Lightning Vortex or you get swept or anything, you have an Inferno there to be able to special summon along your Ultimate Baseball Kid in order to power them up a little bit more faster. So for instance, you set a UFO Turtle and they swing into it, you search for an Ultimate Baseball Kid, and on your turn, you remove that UFO Turtle from play to special summon Inferno, and then normal summon anything, and all of a sudden, Ultimate Baseball Kid can take on mostly everything. So after you've won a few games and built up some DP, you're going to want to get a few upgrades for this deck. The first of which being a 3rd Solar Flare Dragon in order to more consistently set up a lock and end of turn ping damage. Then after that, you're going to want to get 2 more Raging Flame Sprites. And thankfully, these are all pretty affordable from the password machine, being 2,600 per card. And eventually, an optimal fire deck for this game will look something like this. Some of the notable additions are the inclusion of Mage Power and United We Stand, which can help close out a game very quickly with Raging Flame Sprite, or help you deal with monsters with Ultimate Baseball Kid, and basically have a answer for large attack monsters. I also included 3 Solemn Judgment because it protects our back row stall cards, or it can protect our Ultimate Baseball Kid or Raging Flame Sprite. I left in a Molten Destruction because it's situationally very good in this deck. It has some synergy with Mage Power, but I mostly leave it in because when you have a Raging Flame Sprite under a gravity bind and you can attack directly, he becomes an 1100 attack monster. But opponents' 3-star monsters typically have more attack than that, so you can get your flame sprite out, but it's gonna die even under a gravity bind. But if you have a molten destruction, he's all of a sudden a 1600 attack monster, and most opponents don't have a strong enough level 3 monster in order to deal with that, so it can become very good in certain situations. And it can be used to destroy opponents' field spells because this is the old field spell ruling. Once you've maxed out your fire deck, you have a few good options to branch out to other archetypes. You could focus a little bit more on the burn strategy by including more lava golems and things like stealth bird or nightmare wheels, wave motion cannons, or you can focus a little bit more on the stall aspect in order to power something like a Pac-Man deck, which uses the flip effect monsters like Deslocuda, Golem Sentry, and Medusa Worm, or you can power a clown control deck which instead uses Crass Clown and Clown Zombie in order to gain constant advantage. All of these are very good and very viable decks for the time, so any of them are going to be good enough to absolutely shred through the game. And that concludes our third deck in the starting deck series. I hope you like it, and I hope you find some of this interesting because it gets even better. We are going to the water deck next, and it is quite a doozy itself, so be sure to subscribe and check it out. But until then, I am the Scrub Busta, and you've just been cleaned. That sounds weird.